Welcome to Body in Balance Podcast. I am your host, Charlotte Johnson, the certified licensed physician assistant, sent here to kick some knowledge your way once a week for the purpose of educating, informing, and enlightening this audience concerning physical, spiritual, and emotional aspects of our bodies in relation to our Creator, the one, the only, the true and living God. He is the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. Let us give it up for Yahweh. Hey, I'm so excited to see you all this Wednesday. Let me tell you, we are going to have a tremendous upcoming 10 weeks. What I'm excited about is this is actually season 3, and we have been going since January of this year. So now we are going to be talking about the ear. We're going to be talking about different aspects of the ear and its functions. And I'm going to spread that out over a 10-week period because we're going to first talk about the anatomy and its function. But then I'm going to break it down because the ear is very complex. It also has hearing, but there is the distinction of your balance system, your vestibular system. And I want to talk about that in depth because a lot of people get confused about types of dizziness and whether it is dizziness or whether it's vertigo or whether you're just off balance or you're having something called ataxia. It really can get complicated. So I want to be able to share some information that I do in the office or in the clinic when I see patients. We're going to be talking about the different types of hearing. There's 2 types of hearing loss, if you did not know. There's conductive hearing loss, and then there's sensory neural hearing loss. We're going to talk about the difference over this 10-week period. Today, it's so much in here. We're just going to be talking about the anatomy, the 3 different parts of the ear, and how the ear hears, We'll see a couple of videos, and we're going to go through the slides today that will help you to get a better understanding. It's going to be a basic understanding, and then we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty of how that hearing actually works into next week. Next week, we'll be talking about the balance system. So I'm going to go ahead and get started exploring the anatomy and the anatomy of the ear and its functions. So on today's agenda, we're going to be talking about the anatomy, just the anatomy. I want you to get a basic understanding of what's going on with the ear. And then we're going to talk about how hearing works. You'll see 2 videos and 2 different slides that will help you. One is a 3-dimensional of how the ear works. And then we're going to have a short little video talking about how the ear works. So human anatomy and hearing. All right, let's get into the parts of the ear. So you have those kind of flaps that God stuck on the side of our head. I guess he did that for comedy on some of us, because some of our ears or outer ear comes out very wide. Some stays close to the head, but when they're out more, that tends to help you to pull in sound so that it conducts down that ear canal. So you see the outer ear, that's not really the sense organ. That's not what makes you hear. You can hear without having the outer ear or that flap that's outside of your skull. You could hear without that because that's not actually the sense organ. Then you have the ear canal. That's the tunnel where we stick our finger in and we stick Q-tips in there, which you should not do, but because it tends to push the wax down in there further. Oh, that's something else that's going to be really cool during this 10-week session. We're going to watch some ear cleanings. It's going to be really cool. So when you have wax in there, it kind of blocks up or muffles your hearing. You'll find out why through this series. There's something called the pinna, and then you've got your ear lobe, and then you've got it's a little triangular thing right in the front portion of your ear. That's called the tragus. The tragus. It's a little small piece of tissue and cartilage right in the front part of your ear that's very close to your face or adjacent to your face. So once the sound waves go through the ear canal, it hits this organ here, which is the eardrum. The eardrum. Attached to the eardrum are 3 different bones. These 3 small little bones are called ossicles. Ossicles. So the ossicles, it's 3 of them. And if you remember when you were in 5th grade or 6th grade, you remember the hammer, the anvil, and the stapy. Those 3 bones are what we're going to know are in the middle ear. So you've got the outer ear, that's before or anterior to, in front of the eardrum, where your finger can go in. The eardrum separates the outer ear from the middle ear. That's where fluid collects sometimes. And your little babies will have pressure in their ears, and we have to put tubes in to take the fluid out and put a tube in to keep that area dry. So you have the malleus, which is the first bone that's attached to the eardrum. The second bone is the incus. The next bone is the stapes. That bone, the stapes, attaches or makes contact with the snail-looking bone that you see here called the cochlea. The cochlea. So that part is the inner ear. That is your actual sense organ. That's what makes you hear. The 3 little bones help to carry sound waves, mechanical sound waves, to that cochlea, and it changes that vibration to an electrical impulse that goes to the cochlea, and there's fluid inside there that carries that. There's small little hair cells inside there. They're little nerves that will send signals to a larger nerve called the acoustic nerve, which goes to the temporal bone inside the temporal area of the brain. Okay. Now, where you see this other tube that comes off there, that's the eustachian tube. That's going to be something fun we're going to learn about that will help you to understand some of your ear problems also, like why you get on a plane and your ears pop, or you feel like you can pinch your nose and pop your ears, and that happens. You'll understand because what that eustachian tube does is it equalizes pressure in the middle ear. It equalizes the pressure in your middle ear. Again, we're exploring the anatomy and the function of the ear. So now that we've talked about our anatomy, we're going to understand the external ear structures. So let's look at those. The external ear component. You'll see the ear here. This is a human ear that we're looking at. Now we're going to look at the components of the external ear. The external ear consists of the pinna, which is part of like what's called the earlobe, and the auditory canal, which is the long area that I just pointed out that you can see, or that you can't see it, but that you can put your finger through. That's where sound waves travel. And that is essential to making your hearing clear. So if you have a lot of wax there, if you have a foreign body, like you put your, let's say you put your earphones in and that little rubber tip falls off of the earphone and gets stuck in your ear. Well, you have to make an appointment, come see ENT, and we can take that out with a little clamp. We go in with a small little clamp that acts like a little finger and pulls that out. Okay. Function of the pinna. The pinna captures sound waves and directs those sound waves through the ear canal. And that's what makes the crucial role for hearing, funneling that sound into that ear canal. Now, your auditory canal has to be free of wax, foreign body, bugs, or a lot of different things can get in there, but you don't want anything in there because that would hinder the strength of the wave as it travels to hit the eardrum. Because once it hits the eardrum, that's the start of the vibratory motion that we were talking about. Now, let's talk about the inner ear components. I discussed the inner ear components with you initially. Now we're going to get down to where it's a little deeper. That tan looking area that looks round there, that's going to represent the eardrum. So now, if you look at it to the left, when you're looking at your computer, if you look at it to the left, that's the ear where the ear canal would be. That's the outer ear. The eardrum, remember, it separates outer ear from middle ear. And in the middle ear, you get a chance here to see up close the malleus, the incus, and then the stapes. The malleus, the incus, that's the one in the middle, and the stapes. The ossicles are the middle three bones that are inside the middle ear. They play a vital role because they amplify the sound. They make that sound wave sound louder to the cochlea so that it goes to the brain and you can hear it better. Sound amplification, the ossicles amplify sound vibration from the eardrum, making the sounds louder, as I said, before it reaches the middle ear. And what's in the middle ear? Absolutely, the cochlea. Transmission to the middle ear, once it goes there, it hits that cochlea, and the ossicles is what's doing that, enabling you to hear better. Now, here's the inner ear mechanism. That is the function. Let's talk about the function of the cochlea because it's real important. That's the snail-looking bone. So when you look at this picture, at the bottom you see where it says auditory ossicles. Auditory ossicles. And that would be the malleus, the incus, and the stapes. Three different bones, three separate bones that may need to, that may have problems. And we'll talk about different disorders that can disturb hearing. And we're going to talk about things that will disturb and make conductive hearing loss and things that would cause sensory neural hearing loss. Well, what does all that mean? Well, over this 10-week period, we'll be able to understand, and if you follow and track with me, you'll be able to understand greater what's going on with the ear, or with your child's ear, or with your grandmother or grandfather's ear, or possibly your own. The cochlea plays a crucial role in hearing by converting sound waves or sound vibrations into electrical signals for the brain. We're going to look at some little videos so you can pick up and get a better understanding for those of you who are visual learners. Vestibular system. The vestibular system is your balance system. It's vital for maintaining your balance. The cochlea is. The cochlea, and you have the vestibular nerve that comes off. You have an acoustic nerve, which is a cochlear. It's called a cochlear nerve or the acoustic nerve. Acoustic means hearing or sound. Then there's a vestibular nerve, which that is the balance nerve. Okay? So that's what the ear has to do with balance. Not so much because of it being your outer ear or your middle ear, but it's the inner ear that has balance issues also because that nerve comes off the brain and affects the cochlea. Okay, we'll talk about all of that over this 10-week period. So let's look at a little video. I want to do a section on the anatomy, not the anatomy, but how you hear. So let's watch this little video on how hearing actually works. How does hearing actually work?
It enters your ear and hits the eardrum, it causes it to vibrate. These vibrations travel through this little hammer-like bone, which makes the sound louder. Then they reach a snail-shaped, fluid-filled organ with hairs. The vibrations cause the fluid in this organ to move around, and as it moves, the tiny hairs convert the motion into electrical signals. These signals are sent to the brain through a nerve, where finally they're interpreted.
All right, so let's look at this anatomical 3D view of what we just watched in that video and heard about. Sound waves going in through the ear canal, as you can see, hitting the eardrum, stimulating that cochlea and the nerves, and then it goes into a portion of the brain called the temporal lobe. That's where your hearing is. Let's watch that one more time. Sound waves going in, hitting eardrum, stimulating those three bones called the ossicles, which stimulates the cochlea. There's fluid inside there. There's a connection to the cochlea, to the cochlear nerve, which then goes, or the acoustic nerve, then goes into the temporal bone brain area. So that's how, on a simplified version, your hearing actually works. All right, so we're going to skip over to our next slide. Add that. And we'll take this one out. Let's see. There we go. Remove. All right. So, thank you for your patience with my technological workings. All right. So, sound wave perception. The path of sound waves enter into the ear through the external canal, as I showed you in the video and the 3D. Hits the eardrum, starts your vibratory movement of the ear, and that starts your hearing because it switches over from mechanical, which is the vibration, to electrical, and it goes through into the cochlear, into the brain. Here again, you see the same thing. Roll of the ossicles, which is the 3 bones. You see the waves coming through, hitting the eardrum, stimulating those, starts the cochlea moving with the fluid inside. And that fluid movement stimulates those hair cells, those small little nerves that are inside there called the hair cells. Now, we'll talk about when you get to the hearing loss, we'll talk about damage to different cells. We're even going to talk about some of the things that an audiologist uses to determine your hearing. I'll talk about that, how we determine, because we look at a hearing test the way a cardiologist looks at an EKG. They can look at an EKG and tell you what part of your heart has had problems, what part of your heart, if it's electrical or if it's muscular. They can tell you if you've got enough potassium or too low of potassium. They can look at that on an EKG. We can do the same kind of thing with an audiogram. We can tell a lot of things before we even come in a room by looking at your audiogram and reading that. So the conversion to electrical signals, you'll see here, see the fluid inside there? You need to know about that because there's certain types of disequilibrium or vertigo, dizziness that can occur when you are dehydrated. If you don't have enough fluids or something like that, you can dry out this area. And so we have to make sure that you get rehydrated and then the dizziness goes away. We'll talk about all that when we come to that portion. But we're going to reiterate it again. Conversion to electrical signals. The signal conversion goes from mechanical vibrations converted to electrical by bending the hair cells that are in the cochlea, and that helps you to hear. Your auditory pathway is an electrical pathway, and it goes through a nerve into the brain. That part of the brain is the temporal lobe. Now, in conclusion, I didn't want to overwhelm us with a whole lot of things at once, so I wanted to keep reiterating about the anatomy, the 3 parts of the ear. You've got your outer ear, where that's the canal. You have the outside of the ear that's that everyone can see, that is put on the side of your head, and that's what funnels the sound waves in to go to the middle ear. You need to remember that the eardrum separates the outer ear from the middle ear, and the middle ear then goes to the inner ear. Inside the middle ear are 3 bones: the malleus, the incus, and the stapes. Those 3 bones are attached to each other. The malleus is attached to the eardrum. So when sound waves hit the eardrum, that's what starts the shaking of those 3 bones. And when one shakes, the other one shakes, and there's a whole lot of shaking going on. When that shaking goes on, that's what starts and stimulates the cochlea to working, because the fluid that's in the cochlea starts to move and causes that fluid to signal those hair cells, which are nerves, and converts mechanical energy to electrical energy, which goes through the cochlea or the acoustic nerve to temporal bone area where you hear. Functions of the ear. The ear is essential for hearing. and balance and detecting vibrations, sound vibrations, and maintaining your body's proprioception. Remember that word, proprioception. Proprioception is your body's ability to know where the other body parts are. Proprioception, that helps you to know where your body is and understanding if your head is tilted to the left, to the right, or to the left, or if you want to turn, if you're standing on one leg, you can balance yourself. If you cannot, there's a problem because of your body's proprioception and the inability to know where the other body parts are. Well, if you're interested in learning about that, I'll see you next week, because on next week, we're going to be talking about balance and the balance system, how it works. We're going to look and see how everything works concerning the balance system. So we're going to talk about and share the ear portion that starts to talk about the balance. So when it feels like my world's going around and around in circles, we're going to talk about that. Episode 2 is going to be on the balance. We are body in balance. Hope you got something great out of this. If you didn't, you can always go back. We're on YouTube. I want you to like and share. Tell all of your friends. You can subscribe. And every time we drop a new episode, because there's going to be at least 10 that we're going to be talking about different things, it's going to be really neat watching the ear get cleaned out. We're going to have information on different disorders, especially this balance. Balance is going to be pretty deep. So we're going to see probably a couple of videos and things like that on maintaining the balance. All right. See you soon. Hopefully, your horizons have been enlightening.